All right, guys. So, I got a new GoPro. My son got for me. I'm pretty excited about that. I've got it on my head right now, so we'll see how that works out. I know I had a lot of issues with shaky cam before, where I'd spin around and people were like, "Man, you know, you're making me dizzy," and the whole thing. So this is supposed to be more stable and supposed to be where it won't be so shaky, basically. It's got some kind of stability system in it and all that. So you can see the Jeep's gone, my truck is back, and so what I've been doing to it is I'm going to try to get it running. So I've got the starter hooked up. I need to get some exhaust manifold gaskets. I got to get the carburetor put on. I put gauges in it so I could monitor what the motor's doing. That motor hadn't been started in about 15 years. So you can see I've got phantom autometer gauges in there. I've got the water and the oil hooked up. I haven't got the bolts hooked up, but those are the two important ones. So I'm going to try to get the motor running before I spend money on a clutch. The clutch linkage won't work on this. It's got what they call a Z-bar. I think they're called something else also, but let me make sure I'm looking at what I want you to look at. The cool thing is, this is like here, you can see my phone. I can see on my phone what you're seeing, so I got to kind of keep an eye on my phone to make sure I'm looking at the right thing when it's on my head. So anyway, that linkage won't work because it won't come out to the ball. So what's going to end up happening is I'm going to have to put a hydraulic clutch in it, which is not that big of a deal. I just have to buy one. Well, they're about $500 for the whole setup for this truck. And I don't want to spend that money if this motor is toast. So it ran when I pulled it out of the Camaro 15 years ago, but I had been really rough on it. I mean, the car only went sideways down the road when, you know, smoking the tires normally when I was driving it. So it's had a rough life. I'm sure it's pretty worn, but if I can get it to where it's able to move this vehicle in and out, that's what I'm looking for. And it's cheaper than rebuilding my 350. So to spend 500 bucks and get some gaskets and carburetor kit, maybe not a big deal, just to see if this thing will fire, which would be nice to hear it fire again after all those years, because it's a pretty good motor, pretty stout motor. I mean, it's not a, you know, it's probably 375, 400 horse, and that's at the flywheel. That's not at the rear wheel. So it's just your normal 13-second quarter-mile motor. But in this thing, it's going to be a beast, because this thing had like, what, 200 horsepower from the factory, maybe, on a good day. So anyway, that's what we're looking at right now. So I got the starter in. Got everything hooked up there. I got a remote start for it, so I can play with the carburetor out here while I'm cranking it over. I'm going to pull the plugs, shoot some seafoam in there, and let that sit for a little bit because it hadn't been turned over in a while. And then we'll turn that over, get all the crap out of it, and put the plugs back in, get everything hooked up, and hopefully that's a Mallory Unilite distributor. Hopefully that thing works. I've had quite a few issues with those. They're pretty fragile. Like, they have a little deal in them that'll blow out pretty easily, and it's expensive to replace them. I've already replaced it once, so hopefully that thing will fire. If not, I'm going to end up having to find something different. Maybe I forgot what they're called now, HEI distributor, basically. And I think it'll fit back there. It looks like it would, but not sure. But I clearanced, you remember I clearanced all this and put these Corvette head valve covers and everything in to where they're, I don't know if you can see that, they're clearanced right back there. And you can see I actually clearanced the firewall so everything would fit. And then I've got my temp sensor gauge here hooked in, and let me move this camera down a little bit, maybe that'll help, because I keep I think I'm looking up over. Anyway, and then my oil pressure gauge, it's actual one that oil runs through that copper line to the gauge. So yeah, manifold gaskets, I'm just gonna run it open headers for now because the exhaust obviously won't fit, but I just want to crank it up and see if it'll run and how it runs, and then if that works, then I'll go ahead and swap over to my hydraulic clutch. That way I can get this thing in and out of here. And I may even drive it. I mean, if it seems to run all right, but I need to change the oil and do some stuff like that. I've already got the previous fuel line for this that I had. Let me pull this camera down a little bit farther. Anyway, so got this all set up, and my carburetor's already hooked up for that line, so I don't have to do a bunch of that. This is the carburetor. It's pretty dirty right now, but this pretty much goes right into it, so it'll be an easy hookup. One issue I will have is the line coming into this pump for the 350, it comes around this side. Well, it needs to come in the other side, so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to, I'm probably gonna have to get another fuel line or just route something to come around the back side of it. Either that or get another pump. But I don't really want to use that same line that's been in there because it's pretty old and it needs to be replaced. So I may end up just maybe buying some more of this in the fuel line and just running it to the back of the tank and bypassing the old system. That way I can just run straight into that, run straight into the tank. And anyway, that's what I'm doing right now. So as soon as I get this running, and it may be, you know, it may take me a week to get it going because I've got to order parts and stuff like that. I need to go find my radiator setup for the Camaro. I'm going to use that setup because it worked with this big block, and it's aluminum radiator setup. I already know it works with this motor, so I'm just going to have to figure out how to mount it in here, which shouldn't be a big deal. And it's already got electric fans on it from like an Audi or something. It's got dual electric fans. This right here basically senses, and so there's a sensor for the fan, so when this hits 180 or whatever it's set at, it kicks those fans on. So it'll have electric fans and I won't have to worry about all that. So I'm so close here, I might as well go ahead and finish this up. Give it a shot. It won't be the permanent fix for this vehicle, but because I've got the original motor over here still on the stand, and I want to have that rebuilt. But I talked to a guy that's supposedly one of the best engine rebuilders around, and he owns a machine shop and the whole thing. And I said, turnkey, if I just drop this off, because I'm not a motor rebuilder. I'm sure I could rebuild one, but I'm just not a rebuilder. I'm more of a bodywork guy. But he said $3,500 out the door, and that's with a hydraulic roller cam in it. He said, I highly suggest getting away from the flat tappet cams because of the fact that the oil doesn't have zinc in it like it used to, and that's why I dropped the cam lobe in this one more than likely. So he said, yeah, $3,500 out the door. That's with the hydraulic cam in it. And that sounds expensive to me. I'm sure I could rebuild it myself a lot cheaper, but again, this guy's that's what he does for a living, so it's like I know when I get it back it's going to be right, versus me farting around with it and, you know, maybe forgetting something or not tightening something or misadjusting something or whatever, or you know, whatever. So you know, I don't have ring compressors, I don't have all the tools to do all that. So anyway, so I thought I'd bring you along a real quick update on what's going on. Yeah, oh, I got me a drill press. I don't know if I showed that on the any of videos or not. It's a Walker Turner old badass one, really. and it's gonna work real good. It's ugly, but it needs a facelift, but facelifts are kind of what I do, so that won't be an issue. I got to clean all this stuff up, put it up, get this table put up. I'll have more room. I've got lots of room now. It's awesome, but I will have to put some of my stuff back over here, so that'll take up some of my room. So I've kind of enjoyed having all this space. I kind of put everything over here. I've got to clean all this up too. I bought another one there, and the problem with it is the motor on the back's not the original, so it sits and shakes back and forth. But it's cool. I mean, it's an old Atlas, but I like that old stuff like this here, the old Athol made in the USA vise and all that. I've always thought that was super cool. Had a guy give me a buffer. That's a Red Wing. Man, it's awesome, but I probably won't use it very often, but it's nice to have it. And that's about it for now. I don't know what else to say. I'm kind of just fiddling with this camera, to be honest with you, just to see how it's going to work out, what the upload is going to look like, how long it's going to take to upload it. And so, yeah, that's what's going on. I'm so glad to have that Jeep out of here, though. Oh my goodness. One thing I will have to do for the Jeep still is he's got a rack up here that goes on the top, roof rack, and it's in pretty bad shape. So I think I'm going to just use some Hot Rod Black, clean that up and spray it with just single stage Hot Rod Black and give it back to him. So that won't be a big deal. Hopefully. I say that, everything seems to turn into a big deal, but anyway, yeah, that's it. And so I don't know that I'm going to get a lot more done today that I need to film, you know. I've got to get my motor mount bolts and all that kind of stuff back in here. They're just sitting, it's basically just sitting in there right now. It's not locked down yet. So I'm sure there's some stuff I'm forgetting, and I'll figure it out when I go to crank it over. Oh, I've got to get power steering brackets, because that's a small block power steering pump bracket set up. So I got to get a power steering pump bracket set up for the big block. That's pretty important for me with this big tank. Trying to turn it is super easy with the power steering. Without it, oh my goodness, it would suck. So anyway, that's it. Appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys are having a good day. I hope everybody's staying away from the COVID stuff. And if you do get it, I hope it's mild for you. And you guys take care.